Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 30th of October and we are going to cover two very important topics which are in news. The first topic is extremely important because this is India abstaining in the United Nations over Israel and Gaza. There was a resolution which was put to vote, and that resolution was talking about bringing a humanitarian end to the conflict happening over there between Israeli forces and the Hamas. However, in that resolution, there was no condemnation of the acts done by Hamas by attacking Israel. They attacked Israel initially, they started it, and they took hostage a lot of Israelis. In the text of this resolution, nothing of this sort was there. India thought it best to abstain from voting in that resolution. There were many countries who, along with India, also abstained. Around 45 countries abstained. 120 countries voted in favor of the resolution, means they were wanting to bring this conflict to an end. This does not mean that India was not wanting to bring end to this conflict. India was, India is, and India always will be. But in this topic, we'll deal with the nuances of the text that was tabled over there and what are other key takeaways from this particular episode in this global multilateral organizations called as the United Nations. Then the second topic which we're going to cover is blasts in Kerala. Yesterday, that is Sunday, there were serial blasts in Kerala in a gathering only. Actually, the Jehovah's Witness, this is basically a religious group among the Christians. Their rally was attacked. Coincidentally, the man who has claimed that I have done this attack, he himself is a Christian. Now he says that the teachings of Jehovah's Witness, they are seditious in nature, they are against the sovereignty of the state, and in order to protect the sovereignty and integrity of our country, he has sent them a message by doing so. He has also claimed that he had been warning this Jehovah's Witness cult prior to this attack multiple times that you should change your ideologies, you should change your thinking, which are against the state. So, this became that man's reason to attack that congregation. Unfortunately, in this attack, two people lost their lives and several were injured. So, let us look into this, and both these topics we'll be covering, and both these topics are kind of important from UPSC point of view. Now, India abstains in UN over Israel and Gaza. The headline was Ukraine, G20, and now Gaza. There are deep fault lines which are existing in the world since 2022. And in all these deep fault lines, India has emerged as a diplomatic victor or a winner. Because India has taken this calibrated stance, and this nuanced position of India is helping India earn a lot of praise worldwide, especially from the conflicting parties. India is neither with any of these conflicting parties, and yet both are praising India. Now, a similar kind of stance has been taken by India in the present conflict going on in West Asia, that is Israel and Hamas. Hamas is a militia which is controlling the Gaza Strip region in that territory, that is West Asia. India abstained. Along with India, 45 other countries also abstained. 120 countries, however, voted for this humanitarian, I would say, end to the conflict resolution. In this resolution, no text was mentioning about the attacks done by Hamas over Israel and taking Israelis as hostages. This, I would say, resolution was proposed by the Arab countries. So it is quite commonsensical that they will not be mentioning anything about Hamas. But if you are voting or if you are putting up a resolution in a global body, then you should be talking diplomatically and in a balanced way. And that became the reason for India to abstain. However, there was also an amendment which was proposed by Canada, supported by USA also, which included the inclusion of the text which were condemning the acts done by the Hamas over there. India voted in favor of including that paragraph in the text. But it was not included. We should also note one thing, that 120 countries voted in favor of this particular resolution. Now 120 countries voting, 193 are total number of countries in United Nations. So definitely majority of them are voting. But a notable fact over here is that United Nations General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding, just like UNSC resolutions are. UNSC is another principal organ of the United Nations which is mandated with maintaining peace and security in the world. But this resolution was picked up in UNGA, that is United Nations General Assembly, where resolutions are like these are not binding on the parties. India did also condemn the killing of women and children and the innocent civilians in the Gaza Strip region. These innocent civilians obviously are Palestinian Muslims. So, in order to balance the situation, India did also tell that and was quite vocal on that as well. So, this is the entire scenario which happened. Let us look into the details of this. Now, India abstains in UN over Israel and Gaza. Ukraine, G20, and now Gaza. Over deep fault lines, New Delhi means India walks diplomatic tightrope again. We cannot say that we have successfully walked this tightrope. Let us, wait and let the things unfold more on this. India's abstention at the UN General Assembly on the resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza, it had no references to either Hamas or hostages. This exemplified New Delhi's bid to address competing imperatives in the ongoing conflict. We said that we would not be, going for it, neither against it. Means we are abstaining from voting. Now, 4 broad key takeaways from this particular episode which has happened in United Nations 2 days ago. First is that India joined Australia, Canada, Germany, Japan, Ukraine and United Kingdom in the group of 45 countries that abstained on the resolution. The resolution was titled as Immediate, Durable and Sustained Humanitarian Truce leading to cessation of hostilities and unhindered humanitarian access to the Gaza Strip. This was basically, that resolution which was titled. No doubt about the fact that ceasefire should be there, cessation of hostilities should be there. This is something which we are advocating. But our reason for abstaining was that this resolution did not talk about the, I would say, act which started all this war. That act was the Hamas attacking Israelis. The Hamas taking hostage the Israeli citizens. That actually started the war, and all of a sudden they attacked without giving any warnings or something like this. But this was not being talked about in that text. Now, this resolution was drafted by a group of 22 Arab countries and was proposed by Jordan, which has been vocal in its criticism of the Palestinian civilian casualties in the Israeli bombardment. Actually, this kind of war is kind of, I would say, a war in which the common civilians, they are being targeted, they are being killed. That is the main, I would say, contention. And started by Hamas, obviously, because they started attacking the Israeli citizens, civilians first. Then it was co-sponsored by, Bangladesh, Maldives, Pakistan, Russia and South Africa. A notable fact here is France voted in favor of the resolution. France, generally a West, I would say, country, means it is always there in that West, I would say, camp. But it also voted in favor of the resolution, means it voted in favor, means it is simply standing with countries like Russia and all who are proposing this, I would say. And obviously, the Western countries like USA and all, they voted against it. India here also standing in between. India abstained from voting. India said, I'm not going to vote. France said that nothing can justify the suffering of civilians and all victims deserve our compassion, all lives are equal and there is no hierarchy between them. So it was, France justified its stand because it said that we want the civilians' life to be secure. Now, countries which voted against this, Israel, obviously Israel will vote against it. United States, 5 small Pacific Island nations and 4 Eastern European countries, Austria, Croatia, Czechia and Hungary were among the 14 members who voted against the resolution. Jordan said a vote against the resolution would amount to approving a senseless war and senseless killing, while Israel rejected the vote as infamy. So, this all happened over there. The second key takeaway was amendment proposed in that resolution which was tabled. And that amendment was proposed by Canada, it was supported by USA also. Now, what was that amendment? They wanted to add or insert a paragraph in the resolution which simply meant unequivocally rejects and condemns the terrorist attacks by Hamas. Because, see, the resolution was only talking about Israel's attacks on the civilians. They were not talking about what Hamas did. So, these countries said that this paragraph should be included in the text. That took place in Israel starting on 7 October 2023, and taking of hostages demands the safety, well-being and humane treatment of the hostages in compliance with international law. What kind of international laws are there? We have already covered that laws of war in that particular video. Now, what was India's stand on this amendment? India actually voted in favor of this amendment. India said that, India went with the majority, 87 people on this amendment. They said that this should be inserted, this paragraph should be inserted in the resolution. While 55 member states voted against it and 23 abstained. So, majority of the people, they are voting for it as well. Now, the third key takeaway was, unlike resolutions of the United Nations Security Council, we need to understand this also, resolutions of UNGA are not legally binding. We should understand this. Now, in this case, for the resolution which has been tabled by Jordan, proposed by 22 Arab countries, 120 countries in total voted for it, that, this should be adopted. Ceasefire should be there. But since it is not legally binding, to Israel is not mandated by this to do this. If this resolution would have been tabled in United Nations Security Council and there the member countries have voted in majority for this particular thing, then there would have been obligations on Israel to do ceasefire. But in United Nations Security Council, there is this provision of veto. Even if one country vetoed this resolution, then this resolution would not have been put to vote. And USA definitely would have been vetoing it. So there was no point of putting this in UNSC also. UNGA was the best possible bet where they put, but that is not legally binding. We need to understand it in this way. Therefore, despite the comprehensive defeat, Israel and the US are not obliged to act on the resolution. However, UAE's representatives told reporters over there in United Nations that the resolution carries incredible weight and moral authority. Yes, definitely, there is moral authority when 120 countries in the world are wanting ceasefire. So, definitely it is there. Countries who have abstained also, like India, they are also wanting ceasefire. They are also not wanting war. And countries who have voted against it, maybe somewhere or the other, they are also not wanting this war. Because, war complicates things. Nothing else. There is only losses, losses and losses in the war. Now, 120 votes in this kind of geopolitical environment is a very, very high signal of the support for international law, for proportionate use of force. Now, this is Basically, we need to understand the meaning of this word also, proportionate use of force. Proportionate use of force simply means the army attacking the army, not the army or militia attacking the civilians. If the army or militia is attacking the civilians, then that use of force will be called as disproportionate use of force, and people are calling for proportionate use of force. And it is a rejection of the status quo that is currently happening on the ground. Status quo is disproportionate use of force, which is happening right there in Israel. And the fourth key takeaway was the balanced position taken by India. Okay, India abstained, that was one balanced position. But after abstaining, India also, gave some public statements in this particular episode. We need to look on those particular statements given by India. And those statements, if we understand, then this balanced position of India will be justified in your head. So, first is that while circumstances, politics, and conditions of the two wars are vastly different, we need to understand this. We have not got into the, I would say, balanced stance right now. But yes, we are just comparing a bit this particular war with the Russia-Ukraine war. There also India took balanced stand. Here also we are taking a balanced stand. We are known for taking balanced stands. And, although the situation in Russia-Ukraine war was different, the situation here is different. Adding to the complexity is the complexity of West Asia, which we've covered multiple times at length, that triangle which I talk about in West Asia. In the previous videos, I've talked about it when we were discussing, I would say, Hezbollah, or we were discussing this Abraham Accords over there in West Asia. So this situation is different, but what is similar from Russia-Ukraine war and here is India's diplomatic stand, that is balanced stand. I think India has done mastery in taking balanced stands. So, what are the key elements of India's statements? Now we'll come to the first point, that what India has said. India, first of all, has condemned violence, especially on October 7 attacks by Hamas, conveying its support for Israel. Because India at that time clearly gave a statement that this activity of Hamas, where they, all of a sudden attacked Israel, and they did not attack Israeli forces, they attacked the Israeli civilians. They took them as hostage. This act was an act of terror, or terrorist act it was, which clearly signified that we are condemning this and we are in support of Israel. We called for immediate and unconditional release of hostages, calling for terrorism a malignancy, and it asked the world not to buy into any justification of terror acts. Because Hamas, they're trying to justify their acts on the basis of religion, on the basis of atrocities faced by them over the history. So, an eye for an eye will make the world blind. It is simply like this. So, it is there. It balanced out its support with a statement on the plight of people in Gaza and not mentioning Hamas by name. We also talked about the plight of people in Gaza. Gaza means that particular area which is administered by Hamas and their Palestinians live. So, when Israel, in response to this particular activity of Hamas, attacked Gaza, a lot of innocent civilians, they were also killed. We condemned that also. Okay. We said that casualties in the ongoing conflict in Gaza are a telling, serious and continuing concern. Civilians, especially women and children, are paying with their lives. This humanitarian crisis needs to be addressed. We welcome the international community's de-escalation efforts and delivery of humanitarian assistance to the people of Gaza. India too has contributed to this effort. Now, we have logistically also supported there in Gaza right now, and here also we are welcoming this resolution. Resolution is there. वो अलग बात है that we are abstaining from it because we do not agree with this resolution, because you have not mentioned about the activities done by Hamas. Because we condemn those activities, point one, which you see. You should understand from that. Then India expressed concern at the security situation and urged all parties, which would include both Israel and its rival Iran, Now Iran is also getting into this kind of conflict because we covered Hezbollah. Hezbollah is being supported by Iran, and Hezbollah is trying to enter the war and complicate the situation. So we have appealed कि भाई please do not complicate the situation further. Iran, you don't get into it. Iran is a rival of Israel, and another rival of Israel is these Hamas. तो दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त. So Iran is trying to force this kind of equation over there, and we're just saying that Iran, please, all parties, we have not mentioned anyway, but yes, all parties, which would include Israel and its rival Iran, as well as groups like Hezbollah, to exercise restraint and utmost responsibility. So we have mentioned names. Sorry for that. We have mentioned the names is Iran and Hezbollah, and utmost responsibly we should be acting in this particular scenario. Then New Delhi also reiterated its principled position on Israel-Palestine issue by underlying its support for a negotiate two-state solution. Now, two-state solution is something which is, I would say, the ultimate solution to the ongoing conflict between Israel and Palestine since the 1940s when Israel was formed. Now, in 1947, when Israel was formed, the UN plan was there, which gave more than 50% of the territory to Israel, less than 50% to the Arab Muslims, that is Palestine, and Jerusalem was made as an international zone. That was a two-state solution given by United Nations. But that two-state solution actually was altered by two successive wars, that is Arab-Israel war. One started in 1948, another in 1961 it ended. 1967, sorry, it ended. Now, if you remember in that video, we covered how Israel expanded itself. So now Israel actually says that I control more area than that was given to me by the UN plan because we won the wars. Palestinians say that no, we want at least that much which UN was giving. At that time they were saying that no, we want the entire area. Hamas now also says we want the entire area. So the two-state solution is the ultimate solution, but what are the two states? What kind of territories will be in Israel now? What kind of territories will be under Palestine? So that is why it is written, a negotiated two-state solution should be there in place. Everyone has its own version of two-state solution. The Palestinians now have the UN plan 1947, that level of two states at least should be given. Israel says now we have moved into those territories. Our people are settled over there. That two-state solution cannot be there. We can renegotiate it. So everyone has its own version of two-state solutions also presently. So India is saying that a negotiated two-state solution leading to the establishment of a sovereign, independent and viable state of Palestine living within secure and recognized borders side by side in peace with Israel should be there. So there is no one two-state solution. Everyone has its own versions of two states. Israel has its own version now after winning those wars. Palestinians have its own version of two states. So what will be compromised, what will be settled? Obviously, international bodies like United Nations will have to come to picture again. And at this time, countries like India can also play a key role over here. But obviously that is risky. India has not played such kind of a role in the Russia-Ukraine war also going on till now since February 2022. So we have to be cautious in that. It is kind of tempting that we can go and play, but we should be cautious. It underlined the primacy of diplomacy and dialogue, calling on parties to de-escalate and create conditions for an early resumption of direct peace and negotiations. All this is, the key takeaways from this particular episode which happened there in United Nations. If you read the headline only, and the headline says that India abstained from voting on a resolution which called for, I would say, a peaceful, and a humanitarian end to the conflict there in Gaza. You would say that India is not wanting humanitarian end. That is why India is abstaining. But yes, you should get into the text and context of the resolution. And you should also get into the details of what India has said, the official statement given by Indian officials there in United Nations. That will clear the picture to you. And I hope I have cleared this picture to you by doing this. Now, the blasts in Kerala. Now, there's one, I would say, sub body or I would say, cult among the Christians, that is Jehovah's Witnesses. These Jehovah's Witnesses as a cult was formed in the 19th century in USA. And presently it is believed to have around 8.5 million followers as of 2022. Now these people, they were there for a religious meeting, and it was a 3-day meeting, and this was the third day, that is Sunday, yesterday. And on this last day of the meeting, there was a bomb blast which claimed 2 lives and several others were injured. Surprisingly, there's a man also who has claimed responsibility for the blast. Coincidentally, that man happens to be a Christian himself. There's no involvement of any other religious organization over here. So we can, interpret that Muslims might have done it, or Hindus might have done it, or some other religious organizations might have done it. Ironically, a Christian only has done it. And that person says that the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses, they are seditious in nature. They are against the state, they are against territorial sovereignty and integrity of the state. And they are a threat to our country, that is India. And that is why I have taught them a lesson. It is kind of patriotism winning over, religiosity. So, this is what the issue was. But, the Kerala police is investigating the case right now. They are not just blindly believing that arrested or that person's, I would say, claims. That person has also, surrendered himself to the police. The police is investigating. Maybe that person is wrong, or maybe that person may be right also. So all these investigations are going on presently. But yes, here we need to understand that what are Jehovah's Witnesses, I would say, major thoughts, or I would say the principles of following Christianity. Are they really against the state? Are they really seditious in nature? So let's look into the topic. We'll get to know the details of that. Now, the blasts occurred at an international convention center in Kalamseri, where over 2,000 followers of Jehovah's Witnesses had assembled on the concluding day of their 3-day long prayer meeting. 2 people lost their lives and several others were injured. Now, who are Jehovah's Witnesses? We need to understand this as well. Now, Jehovah's Witnesses are a Christian religious group that originated in the United States of America in the 19th century. To be exact, it was around 1870 when this was formed. The denomination is directed by a group of elders in Warwick, New York, United States of America, and this group of elders is the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses, which establishes all doctrines based on its interpretation of the Bible. They read the Bible, means they are Christians. They follow the Bible, means they are Christians, and they interpret the Bible in their own way. That is what makes them different from other Christians, their different interpretations of the Bible. It teaches that destruction of the present world system at Armageddon. Armageddon is kind of an event in which a major conflict will bring the end to this humanity, means it will bring the end to this world. It will bring the end to life in this world. This will happen. It means destruction of the present world system at Armageddon is imminent, means it is going to happen. And then establishment of God's kingdom over the earth is the only solution to all of humanity's problem. And he said, and they believe that once Armageddon happens, then there will be this establishment of God's kingdom over here, and then only all the problems of the mankind, they will dissipate. Now, who is behind these attacks? The man named as Dominic Martin, who has claimed responsibility for carrying out the multiple bomb explosions on a Christian religious gathering, has revealed the motive behind the attack also. Now, there's a video which is going viral on the internet, and in that video, obviously, that person is, I think, speaking in Malayalam. Okay. So those people who know Malayalam, they can understand. And I also tried to watch that video, but could not understand it. That is why I have not included the link for that also in this particular, text over here which we are reading. Now, in this viral video, he has claimed responsibility for the blast and given reasons for the attack. What has the reason been given? He says that the man alleged that he took the decision as the teachings of this organization, means Jehovah's Witnesses, were seditious in nature. Martin further accused the organization and its ideology of posing a danger to the country, advocating for its cessation within the state. He asserted that he had repeatedly urged the organization to rectify its teachings, but there was no response by the organizations. So it is obvious, when these teachings are going on since the 19th century, why would they alter these teachings on request of a person named as Dominic Martin? And Dominic Martin then responded with a bomb attack. Now, are Jehovah's teachings really seditious? We need to understand that. Or what elements of Jehovah's teachings are being termed as seditious or are being interpreted as seditious by this man, Dominic Martin? So let us look at it. The group's position on conscientious objection to military service, basically they do not let their people go into military service. They are actually against the military service. And refusal to salute state symbols. They also refuse to salute the state symbols like national anthems and flags. Has brought it in conflict with some of the governments worldwide, because it is an organization which is spread worldwide. Some Jehovah's Witnesses have been persecuted and their activities banned or restricted in some countries also. The present persistent legal challenges by Jehovah's Witnesses have influenced legislation related to civil rights in several countries. Now, they do this and they take the support of that freedom of speech and expression. Now, were they really doing these kind of activities in India? Then only we can term their activities as seditious. But if they have this kind of teachings inherent in their, I would say, cult, but they are not actually practicing it over here, then there was no point of bombing and killing innocent two people and hurting others, several others. But yes, on the other side, if you see their teachings, they can be, or they can, in its extreme form, someone can do these kind of seditious activities who is following this Jehovah's Witness. But cases should be decided on merit. Did any individual who is affiliated with Jehovah's Witness did any kind of activity in India? Then, if yes, if the answer to this question is yes, then I would say, Dominic Martin was believing to be right, but yes, he has not done the right thing. Bombing is not a solution. There is law in place. There is the judicial system in place. That judicial system and the laws will take care of that seditious activities. This is not the way to take, care of some seditious activities, bombing and letting your voice heard. This is, I would say, another act of terror which Mr. Dominic has, resorted to. So this is what we need to understand. And we also need to understand the elements of secularism over here. Secularism is separation of religion and state. Obviously, this is the Western concept of secularism. The Indian concept of secularism is basically there should be no official religion of the state. The state should be responsible for protecting all the religions. So this element of separation of religion from the state is also there in India's form of secularism. But here, in this present episode, religion and state, they are with each other. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, if they have these kind of teachings, they do not want to respect the state symbols and all, they are against it. So definitely this is in violation of the spirit of secularism. So we need to look at it at this and from this angle also. And this would complete this particular topic of yours. And with this, I've completed two very important topics today. And I will be meeting you tomorrow with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys know very well what to do. Keep reading, keep writing, keep, learning. And most importantly, keep revising. Namaste. Jai Hind.